Okay, today we're going to look at 5 views of the book of Revelation. And these are views that different people hold in and outside of the church. The first, I'm going to, and I'll just briefly describe each of these. But the first one is what is called the preterist interpretation. The preterist view is one that holds that the prophetic events were fulfilled in the first century. Preterist is a Latin word and means past or beyond fulfillment. Um, they tend to hold a replacement theology view, which simply put is the church has replaced Israel in God's plan. If you look at the prophetic events of Matthew 24 and Luke chapter 21, the preterist would say that all these things have already been fulfilled. The second is a historical interpretation, and this says that the prophetic events have been fulfilled throughout history from the first century to now. The third view is an allegorical interpretation. Um, and this says that the stories in the Bible are allegories. It is generally a book of good versus evil. And Origen, Origen, one of the fathers of the church, held to an allegorical view. It might be good to note here that I personally do not hold to this view. I hold to a literal view and a literal interpretation of the Bible. But moving on, the fourth view of the book of Revelation is what is called amillennial interpretation. It's a millennial interpretation. It says that the book of Revelation contains 7 phases of church history. It also says that, let's look at A equals no, and millennia is 1,000. So it's saying that there is no millennial reign, but we have been already in it and are in it. For those of you who do not know, the millennial reign is the 1,000-year reign of Christ on the earth. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that we are currently in the millennial time now. The millennial kingdom is right now. Finally, the fifth view is a futuristic interpretation. And if you look at the book of Revelation, the way that it's broken down, this is, you look at Revelation 1, and that deals with the past. And remember that John, the apostle, wrote this. So, looking at the time that he wrote it, the past for him, Revelation 2 to 3 is the present time for, John, when he wrote that. And then Revelation 4:1 is the rapture to chapter 22 is the future. So obviously the rapture has not yet taken place. So 4:1 to chapter 22 is the future. Particularly chapters 4:2 through 19:1 are the time of the 7 years of tribulation. This obviously has not occurred yet. I want to go to just a couple quick verses. I want you to look first at chapter 6 of Revelation, and let us look at verses 12 to 16. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, And lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll, when it is rolled together. Every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Now, if you look at this, so far, at least in any of the classes that I've taken, I have yet to read that the sky was actually rolled back like a scroll. The sun has not turned red. The moon has not turned red. Let's also go to chapter 9 of Revelation and verse 15. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, to slay the third part of men. This also has not yet occurred. I'm going to go to chapter 8 of the book of Revelation still. Let's look at verses 7 through 12. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire, mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains and waters. And the name of this star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. The fourth angel sounded. The third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. There's a lot here, but as you can look at it yourself, and I encourage you when I read from the Bible to also look at it. But these things have not yet happened. One more that I just want to look at really quick is Revelation 13. And let's look at verse 18. Here is wisdom. Okay, start over. Let me go back a little bit, actually. I want to look at verses 16 to 18 of chapter 13. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell save he that has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. There is going to be a message coming up that I'm going to do on the actual mark. It is in production now. It has been used on some people. They started it supposedly for animals, but we'll get into that. But to this date, so far, this has not occurred either. Okay, I have a list of other verses that I will attempt to put on the screen. After I'm done, I'll type these in. Okay, but we have to look at also, lastly, Um, the book of Revelation, you have to look at 5:9 through 10, Revelation 20, verse 4, and Revelation 22, verse 5. When we talk about a 1,000-year reign, the millennial reign, it is a literal. Again, I believe in a literal translation. I think that God meant what he said, and he said what he meant. So, these are the 5 interpretations of the book of Revelation. I hope that you were blessed by this. Thank you for listening.